All right, let's jump right in. We're looking at a brand new global survey of over 800 sustainability experts. Now, these are the people on the front lines, right? And what they're saying, well, it's like they've just sent up a massive flare. They're telling us we're at a huge turning point for the whole sustainability movement. So let's dig into what's really going on here. And right off the bat, this is the core message, and it's coming straight from the source. This isn't some attack from the outside looking in. This is a pretty stark warning from the very people who live and breathe this work every single day. They're basically saying, hey, the current playbook, it's just not working. Which of course leads to the big question, why? Okay, first things first, let's just talk about the sheer scale of this feeling. The data makes it super clear. This isn't just a few disgruntled voices. We're talking about an absolutely overwhelming call for change from pretty much everyone in the field. I mean, just look at this number, 93%. Seriously, it is almost impossible to get that many experts to agree on anything. Think about it. This tells you that the feeling, that feeling that the current approach just isn't cutting it. It's pretty much universal among the people who know this stuff best. And what's really fascinating is how that 93% actually breaks down. I mean, only a tiny 6% thinks things are working just fine. But look at this. The majority, a full 56%, they're not just talking about little tweaks here and there. Nope. They are calling for a radical revision. They literally want to tear up the old playbook and start from scratch. Okay, so what is driving this huge desire for a complete overhaul? Well, the survey data actually gives us a really clear diagnosis. And it all starts with a pretty sobering look at how much progress we've actually made so far. And wow. This right here really gets to the heart of it. When they were asked to rate global progress, a full half of these experts, 50%, rated it as poor. And check out the other end of the scale. A tiny 5% thought it's been excellent. So the takeaway here is pretty stark. After decades of effort, for most of the insiders, the results just aren't there. But that brings up a really important question, right? Is this feeling, this dissatisfaction, is it the same everywhere? Is everyone experiencing this the same way? Well, the answer is a clear, resounding no. It turns out the experience on the ground changes dramatically depending on where you are in the world. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this divide. In North America, you have an incredible 91% of experts saying they see a significant backlash against sustainability. 91%. But then you flip over to the Asia-Pacific region and it's a completely different story. A majority there, 61%, say they see no significant backlash. This just goes to show this isn't some one-size-fits-all global movement. It's really a series of local fights, each with its own unique challenges. And it turns out this frustration isn't just about the results, or the lack of them. It's also about leadership. The survey uncovered a pretty serious crisis of confidence in the very groups that have historically, led the charge. You can see here that trust is shifting, and pretty dramatically. Citizen-led movements and NGOs, they've seen these huge drops in how effective people think they are, down 21 and 16 points. And sitting at the absolute bottom of the pile, national governments. They were rated the poorest performers of all. So, if trust is leaving these groups, where's it going? It's moving towards data-driven, independent academic and research institutions. Okay, so that's the diagnosis. A lot to take in, right? But the great thing about this report is that it doesn't just stop at what's wrong. It also asks these experts, all right, so what do we do about it? What will actually work and move the needle in the next 5 years? And the way they got to the answer is pretty clever. They laid out 64 different potential actions, and for each one, they asked the experts to rate it on 2 really simple criteria. First, how much impact could it have? And second, how feasible is it to actually pull off in the real world? And this is where it gets incredibly useful. Because when you plot all 64 of those actions on a matrix, you can instantly find the sweet spot. The stuff that experts agree is both powerful and practical. These are the things we can and probably should be doing right now. And here's a look at some of the top priorities that landed right in that sweet spot. We're talking about things like carbon pricing mechanisms, scaling up sustainable finance and green bonds, and really integrating sustainability into the core business strategy, so it's not just some side project. It's a really clear, actionable roadmap that's all about moving away from just talk and getting to tangible results. But here's the catch. Even with a clear action plan, there's another layer of complexity here. It turns out not all of these experts agree on how we should get this stuff done. The survey actually identified 4 totally distinct mindsets, 4 different ideological camps that are shaping this whole debate. And this grid breaks it all down beautifully. Basically, you've got two big dividing lines. First, do you prefer market-driven solutions or government regulation? And second, are you focused more on technology or on broader societal change? And when you cross those, you get four distinct camps. You've got the tech-focused, market-loving pathfinders. Then you have the more regulation-heavy traditionalists and institutionalists. And finally, the radicals, who are focused on societal change through regulation. Now, what's really fascinating is how these groups break down by size. Look at that. The single largest group, at 42%, are the traditionalists. These are the experts who believe in a more gradual, regulatory approach. They're not about tearing everything down. They want to improve the system we already have. And that makes them a pretty powerful force for continuity. So to make this even simpler, you can really think of these four groups as two major camps. On one side, you have the incumbents. That's the traditionalists and institutionalists. They basically want to evolve and improve the current system. And on the other side, you've got the insurgents, the pathfinders and radicals. They're pushing for much faster systemic change, even if that means totally remaking the system. And right there, that's the core tension that's shaping the entire future of this debate. So, okay, we've got all this dissatisfaction, deep disagreements, and widespread calls for radical change. It kind of sounds like the sustainability movement is in a full-blown crisis, right? Well, interestingly, the report's authors argue, no, they actually see this moment completely differently. They frame this as a glass-half-full moment of opportunity. The idea is that this isn't an ending, it's a turning point. All this frustration and discontent, it's actually creating the energy and the political will to make the kind of bold changes that many people have been calling for years. So it seems like this all points to a path forward that has three really clear steps. Step one, we have to be honest and acknowledge that the old way of doing things just isn't working well enough. Step two, we need to laser focus our energy on those sweet spot actions, the ones that are both high impact and highly feasible. And finally, step three, we've got to find a way to bridge the divide between those incumbents and insurgents to build a much stronger united front for change. Ultimately, what this survey really shows is that the sustainability community is ready for a new chapter. The desire for change, the consensus that we needed, it's there. The only question left is the big one. If the old playbook is failing, which new one are we all going to choose to write?